Monday with Whit Merrifield. Let's do it. AJ's here. We are 40% into the season for everyone. 40%. And do you guys want to guess how many teams are more than 5.5 games back of a playoff spot? How many teams are more than 5.5 games away without looking at the standings?
7.
4.
AJ? Wait. Who said 7?
I did.
AJ said 7. Whit said 4.
Yeah, 4.
3. Angels, Giants, Rockies.
Rockies.
That's it.
But competitive balance, Scott. But the competitive balance is so off, and need a salary cap, and we just need to get all these teams that don't make enough money to actually make more money.
Well, those teams often aren't winning the World Series, but we'll see what happens there.
Maybe if at the trade deadline they traded some people away and went for it, they might actually win the World Series.
That's a timid front office world. There's only a few that go bold on trade deadline acquisitions. And now, Skubal might not be available if the Tigers keep winning a little bit. And he also came back so damn quick. He's going to be back in like a week after the rehab outing. Did you guys see that the other day? And then he even went after the outing to finish up and get to 70 pitches already. So thank you, Nano Needle.
What an incredible thing. I got a feeling that's going to be a very popular needle in the next couple of years.
Agreed. Most popular needle since 1998. Too soon? Okay. Let's get to something fun before we start. I want to see if you guys have ever done any of this. So Randy Rosarena sent a note to a fan or multiple fans that had been heckling him. And I can't read it, but he basically was like, I don't understand English, so all love. Thanks for yelling at me. Have you guys ever done anything tongue-in-cheek like that? AJ, did you ever, I don't know, say something to someone like, I don't even know what you're saying, or give them a souvenir even though they had been a pain?
I tried to ignore him, but normally if I said something, it got too heated, so I just tried to ignore him. I laugh most of the time. Only when someone said something funny would I acknowledge it, but most of the time they're, you suck. I know I suck. Okay, I know. I suck, whatever. I know, I got it. I suck. So, I don't know. It never bothered me because I thought it was funny. Now, were there fans that crossed the line? Of course there were fans that crossed the line. And those are the ones where you're like, okay, dude, like enough. But most of the time it was all in good fun. I just don't understand why fans have gotten to the point where they feel like now they can say anything to these players without expecting somebody to fire back at them. Because no job on earth can you go to someone else's job. If you go to anyone else's job on the planet, and they're sitting there typing on a keyboard, and I'm standing behind them going, you suck. You're the worst. Blah, 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 blah. They would finally get tired of it, and they would say something. But every athlete is just expected to sit there and wear it. But it doesn't always happen. I understand. At certain times, you get tired of hearing it. You suck, and with a lot of other words in there.
Yeah, I think what Randy did was hilarious. And AJ was a catcher, so he would get his chirps probably in the dugout or something. But when you're in the outfield, you hear a lot because you're standing out there for extended period of time, just kind of by yourself, solo, just waiting for a ball to come your way. And a lot of times you don't get a ball. Could be the whole game, and so you got plenty of time to just listen to what people are saying. And you're on the road, and people will chirp at you. And I usually enjoyed talking back to fans if like AJ said, if they were funny or clever. Or you could tell it wasn't coming from a really malicious. It wasn't really malicious. It was just they were just trying to get you to acknowledge them. And sometimes I would because it would just diffuse the situation and make it fun. And then the tricky thing with it is once you open that can, there's seems to be about 20 people that jump in because they all want to get their little 2 cents in too. So I agree. It's when it's lighthearted and it can be fun. But then people will cross the line. Certain cities you go to especially, and you just kind of let those keep ignoring those people because the minute that you acknowledge them, that's all they want is they want you to acknowledge them, and then it just spirals.
And if you're Randy, you're lucky. You don't speak English. A lot of players have some.
And who wrote the note? If he doesn't speak English, who wrote the note?
Maybe he got his interpreter.
I'm just asking. I don't know. He might not speak English, but he sure writes English well.
There you go.
What is it?
There was even proper there was even actual proper punctuation in that note. It wasn't just written. There was periods and all kinds of stuff in that note.
It's like the Family
I think
Guy
there was even a
clip where
comma.
the one guy, this Hispanic guy, has memorized 3 sentences of perfect English and then doesn't know anything else. Maybe that's Randy's go-to.
Yeah. He's got the same note that he gives out to everyone that he memorized.
Yeah, exactly.
Fun. Good fun. All right, let's charge.
Charging the mound.
Red Sox and Yankees met up this weekend. We don't have to get too deep into the series itself. Each side took a game. There was a rainout mixed in there. The Red Sox are last in the American League East. They're 10.5 games back of the Rays and the Yankees. Wondering, first off, which way we think they'll sway ultimately, as the trade discussion can happen while we're in June. Jen McCaffrey of The Athletic wrote that the Red Sox should probably be sellers, but of course alluded to how the American League kind of sucks, so everybody stays in it. She said a surplus of catchers means, a source told her, they're shopping Connor Wong. They've fielded calls on relievers. And, on the other side, they're still looking for bats too. AJ, if they do end up selling at the deadline, Aroldis Chapman would go for a pretty penny, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, Aroldis Chapman, Whitlock, right? He would probably go for something. Sonny Gray, would you trade a Sonny Gray? Is he a free agent at the end of the year? You probably move him, right? They have some pieces, but it still goes back to this, and we said it all offseason. Alex Cora told me this, and I still, even though he's not the manager anymore, guess what he said they needed? Right-handed power bat. What are they still looking for? A right-handed power bat. Because they have a bunch of lefties. They have Wilson Contreras and then a bunch of lefties that can hit. So it's the same thing for the Red Sox. Yeah, they're pitching great. They're doing great, this and that. But if you watch those games, I watched the game yesterday, they couldn't get a hit with guys in scoring position. They don't hit a lot of homers, and they don't get hits with guys in scoring position. So your pitching can only be so good. At some point, you got to score some runs. And they still need right-handed power. They haven't found it. They got to find some pieces. I think they're going to be sellers, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think they'll end up being sellers, but it's a weird spot to be in right now because with the Yankees, you got Judge hurt, so that's going to deflate that offense a little bit. Tampa's sort of coming back down to life a little bit. I think they're in their 3 of their last 7. I think they're in their last 10 games. So they're, what are they going to be? Toronto doesn't seem to be the juggernaut that we all thought they were going to be start the season. Baltimore's not playing great, so it's still a fairly wide open division with 100 games left, something like that. And again, with the wild card situation, there's just so many teams in the American League that are just not good. So, what do you do if you're Boston? I think you start having those conversations, but I'm not sure you pull any triggers just quite yet.
No, and don't you think that Craig Beslow's job is going to have to do with this too, AJ? I mean, if the team doesn't make the playoffs this year, he's probably out of a job. So if that's the case and you're within 3, 4, maybe even 5 games of a wild card, you're probably trying to convince the brass that you should buy, right? You're probably calling up owner John Henry and saying, this team's got it. Number projections say we're going to have a much better second half. We need to buy. Otherwise, everything he's been planning for is not going to really matter. They're going to can him.
What have we learned about John Henry over the last few years in the Fenway Sports Group? They don't want to spend a ton of money on this team anymore. So there's no way they're going to be like Craig Breslow. Your budget for the last 2 months is up by $15 million. Go get 3 players. They haven't shown any want to do that. So what's just going to miraculously change because Craig Breslow goes in there and does this or that? I mean, no, it begs for extra players. No, they're not. They're going to say, here's what you got, make it work. I mean, listen, Jerry DiPoto out in Seattle, he's done a great job of making it work with his budget that he's been given every year. Matt Arnold in Milwaukee's figured out a way to make it work. The Red Sox haven't figured it out for a while, and it sucks because baseball is better when the Red Sox are good. I'm sorry, I know people hate that, but when the Red Sox and the Yankees and these rivalries are good, it's better for baseball because more people tune in and more people care.
And they made the playoffs last year, Whit, but so far it's been a step back. Yeah, I mean, it has been.
It's weird, isn't it? It's like the Red Sox are no longer in that top tier of a organization. It feels like they've always been growing up. I'm 37, and just growing up, it was always the Red Sox and the Yankees, and the Red Sox kind of built this powerhouse team to break the curse, and then they just went on little bit of a run, and they were a powerhouse forever. And they're that big market. It's the Boston Red Sox. Everybody wanted to be a Red Sox. Everybody wanted to play in Fenway. Everybody wanted to wear the B on the hat. I mean, it no longer has that lure, and it sucks and it's weird because you're right. When the Red Sox are good, baseball's better, and they just if you're the Boston Red Sox and you want a right-handed power bat, to your point, AJ, you should go get the best right-handed power bat on the market, and there shouldn't really be anybody that can take that away from you. And they're not doing that.
Yeah, they're still missing with their kind of some of their best players, right? I mean, they're definitely missing their best pitcher in Garrett Crochet. Roman Anthony hasn't played for most of the season here. So at some point you get those guys back, it starts to look like a different ball club. That'll help.
They got to get to 500.
Well, how far away are they right now?
They're 9 games under.
Yeah, so
are they good enough to get to 500? They got to get to 500. That's my whole thing with every team. They're like, oh, we're in it. The Tigers got to get to 500 before you're actually in it. You can't. Yeah, you can have a nice run, but if you're still 9 games under 500 if you're the Red Sox. You got to get to 500.
Is it possible this year that a AL wildcard team is sub 500? It's possible.
No.
It's possible. Probable, maybe not, but it's definitely possible. I remember Dayton Moore telling me in Kansas City one year that the way they evaluated the teams when to start the year was you needed 40 games. After 40 games, you have a pretty good idea of where your team's at. And we're past that threshold, so the Red Sox have a pretty good idea where they're at. Granted, you're right, they are missing a couple of major pieces, and so that does factor into the equation. But I think you got a decent sense of where your team's at, and you need them to turn it around pretty quickly.
So if you're saying – so, Scott, here's my question for you. Are the Royals in it?
Everybody's in it, AJ. Everybody's within 5.5 games.
The Royals are 27-39. Yes, I know they're only 5.5 out of a wild card. Are they in it? Because they have the same record as the Tigers.
I mean, no. If I had to guess, the Royals are not going to be a playoff team they should be selling. The Tigers are not going to be a playoff team they should be selling. I think the problem we've had in prior years is how slow it's been for some teams, and then you always get one or two that break out. I mean, the easiest one to look at is last year, Cleveland. Nobody saw anything for Cleveland. The division, 15.5 back, and all of a sudden they storm back. Whit has covered the Blue Jays a lot. The Blue Jays weren't that good until around this time last year.
Right. Yeah, they did sort of explode, but they had basically they knew their guys that were going to be there for the next year, the year after, and so then they went out and got Bieber and I forget who else they got at the deadline, but I know Bieber was a big splash, and so they just kind of ran it with the team that they had, and they just seemed to peak and get hot. I think the Red Sox, in particular, and Detroit with Skubal are in a little different spot where their guys are running out of time, and they got to make a move.
Thank you, AJ. We're mic checking you.
I know, but I mean, it's like, sorry, it's they're like tap the microphone. Okay, I'm tapping it.
Well, we didn't hear it. Now we hear it. The Brewers last year on June 17th were 6.5 games out. They won the NL Central by 5 games. The Blue Jays were as far back as 8 games in the AL East. And at game 65, they were still 4.5 out. They won the division. The Mariners were 7 games out of the AL West first place spot. On July 10th, they ended up winning that division by 3 games. That's a 10-game turnaround there. And then, of course, we get all the way down to September 5th. The Reds were 6 games away from a playoff spot. On September 5th, they still made the playoffs. Now, as we talked about a lot last year, AJ, you need a little bit of both. You need a lot of luck.
You need a lot of help.
The Mets to fall
Tigers
apart.
helped out the Guardians.
Yes.
And the Mariners got hot, and the Mets collapsed. Let's call it what it is. The Tigers and the Mets collapsed last year. That's the only way that happens. It can't happen if you just play 500. You're not going to get caught if you have a 15.5 game lead. I'm sorry. No team can make up that much. No team in a month and a half can make up 16 games over 500. In a month and a half, that's like 40 games. You're going to have to go like 30-10, and that still doesn't get it. 35-5, right? To get to even close. If you play 20-20, I mean that doesn't those runs. I mean, very rarely happen. But you have to have help.
Yep, you need collapses. All right, let's take a break. Let's get ready for Brad Keller joining us next on FT. All right, let's look at some matchups tonight. This episode is presented by SeatGeek. So we've got all night games. I think it's 8 games on the Monday slate here, including the Mariners and the Orioles. Emerson Hancock going for Seattle. Baltimore's starting to play well, AJ. O's are right back in it.
They're playing better, but it's also because the rest of the American League stinks. So, I mean, but they're playing better. They are. The Rays have come back down to earth a lot. The Yankees without Judge, I mean, it's just they're playing better. They are. I'll give the Orioles credit. They're playing better, but again, they're still under 500. The game I want to see tonight is I was looking at this earlier, is the Brewers at the Athletics, and I want to see how Harrison does in Sacramento, because every pitcher seems to go there and be struggling. So I want to see how he does. And also Sanchez has to go to Toronto. Let's see how he does up there north of the border. Maybe crossing the border will mess him up. He's been so damn good.
Yeah, all right. You can get seats there for any of those games on SeatGeek with a nice code at the bottom of the screen, Territory 10% off MLB tickets. Kyle Harrison hasn't allowed more than 2 runs in a start this year, and his ERA since April 21 is 1.05. His ERA on the season, 1.57. The least talked about Cy Young candidate, Whit.
He's pitching well. Yeah, he's pitching well. It's been fun to see him do so well. But yeah, you're like AJ said, Sacramento seems to be a weird place where pitchers go to die. So see how it goes.
Yeah, and for Sanchez, he's going up against Patrick Corbin in that Phillies Blue Jays battle. Should be a good one there. And then Rays Red Sox. AJ, the Rays have lost 10 of 13, so this is their little slump session. They've been good overall at home, but not as well lately. You know, ever since, I mean, they got swept there by the Tigers. You're looking at them like, maybe they're not as good as we thought.
Oh, they were just so hot. They were never going to be as hot as they were. That's the thing about baseball, Whit. Tell them. You get so scorching hot, and then you always come back down to reality.
Always.
Yep. Hey, if you want to take us to any of the matchups that we just mentioned, Territory 10 for 10% off MLB tickets on SeatGeek. Red dot, not great. Green dot, great. When you're looking for tickets on the app, to make it nice and simple for you, you can see where your seat's going to be, how it's going to look from that vantage point. Go check it out. They know what they're doing. Hey, Phillies reliever Brad Keller joining us right now on FT. Brad, great to have you on, man. How's the season going for you?
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's going good. You know, we're playing some pretty good ball right now, and excited for this 3-game matchup up here in Toronto.
Are you enjoying Philadelphia? Yeah.
I'm enjoying it. It's fun. It's always fun to pitch in front of 40,000 people every time, no matter if it's a Monday or Sunday. It's a great place to play, and our team, it's a lot of fun in there. These guys have been together for a long time, so it's a lot of fun just kind of come in there and just gel right along with them.
Drip, we were talking earlier today about fan interaction. Randy Arozarena had a nice little message to a fan that was chirping him in the stands, and you've now been in Philly long enough. You had any fun interactions with anybody? What's the best little jab that you've gotten from one of your own fans?
Honestly, I haven't heard too much. I think, down there in the bullpen, I think the fans are mainly focused on the other team. I mean, it's been fun to hear those guys chirp up those guys up there. Um, and it's varies from all ages too. Like we got little kids up there chirping at these guys. We got grown men up there. It's funny. It's everyone gets a good laugh out of it. But we appreciate it. Obviously it's better for them to be on them and then instead of us because sometimes it can be pretty harsh up there.
Brad, what's the craziest thing you've heard from a kid? I mean, obviously, we'll keep it clean. We're on TV, but how creative do the kids get? I'm sure the dads or somebody's feeding them lines sometimes because it sounds funnier coming from a kid.
Yeah, I think the big fad right now is the you bum one going on. It's just like kids kind of come up with some stuff that they think is hilarious. I don't really recall any that don't have cuss words in them. But that they just like they go at them pretty hard, and then they drop the U bomb, and it get a good little chuckle out of things. But the most recent, it's so funny because like we'll be warming up, and they think that we can just turn around and, like every ball we get throw right to them. And it's like we're about to go in the game, and we're trying to get ready for that. So they just sit there and hound us while we're warming up. I don't know how they can even breathe afterwards because they just scream ball the whole time. And the other day, our bullpen coach turned around and was like, "Where's your dad?" And then this kid like kind of locked up, and he's like, "Do you want me to tell your dad what you just said?" And this kid shut down right away, and it was so funny. But it's always fun, just like you said, it comes from a kid that you wouldn't expect to say some things. It's great.
Brad, but I mean, in Philly, you guys got it easy. You guys aren't in the top bullpen. I mean, you went there as a visitor. It's way worse. As a visitor, they hide you guys now in Philly. They want to make sure that the bullpen for Philly is taken care of. They don't want them to sit up there. There's too many mean fans in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I think last year was my first time there, and they built the glass and stuff. So talking to some of the guys that have been there before, they're like, this is kind of a lifesaver being on that top bullpen, but you have that glass that kind of protects you from fans. But I warmed up there twice last year, coming in some pretty good situations, and they let me have it, and it was all in fun. It was just like, I mean, there's some crazy things fans say, even when you're just out there stretching and stuff. And that's what's so fun to us. Like we hear it because it's like some of us have been on the other side and heard it. And now it's like, oh, at least everyone else is getting it too.
One of the coolest things about the bullpen in Philly, besides the fact that you're in it, obviously, is the Durantula intro video, right? It's pretty hype. But he was on the shelf for a couple weeks, and you stepped in as the closer during that time. Did you get a nice little hype video for those couple weeks?
I do not think I did. I didn't turn around and look, but I did not. I don't think I did. Everyone was asking me if like they're gonna go the lights out or whatever, and I was like, I really hope not. That's something special. That's safe for him. I mean, it's probably one of the coolest entrances. I remember watching it when he was in Minnesota, and then I think it's even more hype now in Philly.
Hey,
we need to get you a video, Brad.
A video? You
I mean, that'd be
think
sick.
Yeah.
Only the closer.
What would it look like?
It's only the closer.
I think it was.
Only
I
the
agree.
closer.
I think it's only the closer. I agree.
Thank
I
you,
agree with
Brad.
that. I think only the closer. Yeah, I think that's safe for that. Just because like we can pitch in any situations, right? Like the closers, that's special. Getting the last 3 outs of every game is special, and you want them to have their moment and their entrance and get them as hype and locked in as possible.
Brad, I have one suggestion for it, because when we were teammates, your nickname was Killer, and Duran is Durantula. The Killer Durantula would be just an epic 8-9 nickname.
That'd be cool.
Combine videos, Brad. We can do that.
I mean, I'm not opposed, but I do think closers got it.
Hey,
Brad,
now. Go ahead.
What, Scott?
You got it, AJ.
Oh, Brad, now that you're in Philly, you've been there, you're established. We talked to you in spring training. What is Philly like? Well, tell me. You played in Kansas City. You played in Chicago. Now you're in Philly. Tell me the difference about Philly. The fans? Is it the ballpark? Is it the team? What's the Philadelphia experience like?
I mean, I think it's everything. You know, I think all three things you just said. I think the team first and foremost, like I said before, this group's been together for a long time. They've been in the playoffs. They've been, to the World Series. A lot of these guys just, they're really close off the field, and that makes us even closer on the field. And so, coming into spring training, I didn't really know what to expect. It can be, an intimidating locker room. Just looking around the room, there's just, studs all over the place, throughout our rotation, throughout our lineup, throughout our bullpen. Like it's a very veteran heavy team. And so, and I think that's what makes it, so fun. Everyone goes about their business. Everyone knows what they got to do day in and day out to get the job done. And, it's at times when I was with Kansas City, we were really young, and it seemed like we had to do a lot more just to like, perform on the field. And I feel like that's part of the stepping stone into, getting your feet underneath you in the big leagues. You got to kind of find your way through your routine and through all the extra work and early work and all that stuff. So these guys have already done that. And so they already know what works for them. And, just come in and it's just like, hey, coaching staff, super laid back, super chill. And they're like, do what you need to do in order to be prepared for, your job tonight. And that's, to, get 3 outs whenever we call upon you. And so, yeah, it's awesome. It's a completely different experience. So it's, my favorite thing is, massive golf team. I'm all about that too. So we got a little putting mat in the clubhouse. We even got a basketball hoop in the clubhouse. Everyone just keeps it super light and super fun. So we know that the expectations for us are high, and we got to keep it, as chill in the locker room as possible. And so we go out there and perform.
Big day coming up on Thursday.
Big day. Boys are buzzing about it too. We got a lot of talk around the locker room right now.
AJ, we got a trip up to, boys got a off day in Wisconsin, and flying up to play Whistler Straits and take some of the current players' money, because I got to make some money somehow.
Nice.
So that's Brad, I want to talk to you about a little bit of like your ascension last year. I mean, people who don't know your timeline, you were Rule 5 to Kansas City, came in that first season in 18, I believe, right? 18?
18, yeah.
It wasn't long before you were the 8th inning guy, setting up Kelvin Herrera, and then had a great year, transitioned to a starter, had a really good year as a starter, battled some injuries, couldn't quite find your footing. And then last spring, you go into Chicago trying to fight for that fifth starting role with the Cubs. And then the way it fell, you fell into the bullpen, right? And then it was lights out after that. What was that? When did you realize that you were going to be in the bullpen with Chicago? When did they tell you that?
It was about 3 weeks into spring training. They were like, hey, we were going to Japan, so they had to make, roster decisions early. And they were like, hey, I kind of told you you're coming in competing for that fifth spot. We really already have 4 guys, and we have a front runner in that fifth spot. And we really want this guy to have the job. So they're like, we think there's a lot of value in you being a long guy at the bullpen. Are you open to that? And I was like, I signed a minor league deal here. I signed a minor league deal the year before. I'm like, I'm down for whatever. I just want to be back in the big leagues and kind of just showcase what, I'm healthy now, a year removed from TOS surgery. It's like, I just want to showcase what I can do and just go enjoy, being back in baseball and falling in love with the game again. And so, ultimately, like, that's how it went down as far as just like being able to, the roster decision to go to Japan. I wasn't even technically on the roster when we went to Japan. They were just like, hey, you're going to come with us. And I didn't pitch in any of the games. I just got a 7-day trip to Japan with the team and had a blast. It was a great time. Got to, catch some Rob with the boys, and it was awesome. So, but yeah, it was, like I said, it was just, I told him I was opening and willing to do anything. And, I felt like at first I came in, long situations, throwing 2 innings, 3 innings, and then it slowly became like 1 inning and non-leverage. And then it just like, then it was like the 6th inning, close it, like, cleaning up innings. And it was like 7th inning, 8th inning. And then by the end of the year, I was, whenever Palencia got hurt, I got some save opportunities.
Brad. Go ahead, Whit. Sorry.
No, you're good. Tell me to just talk about a little bit of the difference in starting and relieving. What do you credit your success as a in the bullpen to? Is it health? Is it a mentality thing? You feel like your stuff's just better out of the pen? What do you give that credit to?
I think health first and foremost. I think, like I said, getting the TOS in the past and being a full healthy offseason going into last year helped out a lot. Just kind of free and easy, like mentally, just go out there and have fun. But I definitely think there's an uptick in the bullpen. I think that's just there's nothing like the adrenaline spike whenever the phone rings and they're like, "Hey, you got it," and it's just like you almost black out in a sense, and it's just adrenaline through the roof, and you just start ripping. I think it takes a lot of the thinking out of it. As starting, you kind of be a lot more methodical with how you go about your business, and versus relieving it's just like, hey man, phone rings, it's go time, let's go. So I think a little bit of those two combined with stuff playing up, it helps out a lot.
Brad, what's changed without Topper? I mean, you guys have been playing much better. Now, I know you guys are a better team than what you showed early in the year. You only had Topper for spring training in a little bit. So what has Donnie Baseball brought to the table that maybe – and listen, I liked Rob Thompson. I think everyone liked Rob Thompson. But what has Donnie Baseball changed, Don Mattingly changed since he's taken over? Or have you guys just played better?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just like that was like a wake up call to us. I mean, I think everyone here loved Topper. Everyone, I didn't have him as much as the other guys did, so I really can't speak on years prior to. But just a little bit that I played underneath him, I had a great time. He was awesome, communicated very well. I mean, a great manager. But whenever we let him go, it was kind of a wake up call throughout the locker room. It's like, dang, like a good man just lost his job because we aren't playing well. So I think obviously Donnie, he's awesome. He's super laid back, kind of very similar vibe to Topper. But I think a lot of it was just a wake up call to us, be like, dang, like we got to kind of turn things around here.
Brad, you're an Atlanta boy now in that same division. How many tickets are you leaving when you go play the Braves? And two, I mean, with the start that Atlanta's on, you guys obviously are going into the year hoping to win the division. Just talent as Philly has, it should be the goal every year. But with the start that Atlanta's on, are you guys watching that at all? Are you guys chasing it, or are you just worried on day-to-day action?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more of a day-to-day action. I think we're, obviously we had to climb out of a hole there ourselves. So we were just kind of focusing on ourselves and just, take it game by game. And I think we're still in that mentality. It's like, it's a long season. Anything can happen. Obviously last year being a part of, the Cubs, we jumped out to a hot start and then we ended up, not winning the division. So it's like, anything could happen. We just got to go about our business each day and, try to win this day and can't really focus on the other team, especially, pre All-Star break. I feel like, it's right now it's just, everyone getting their footing, just, try to win as many games right now. And then we'll, focus in later on the season.
Brad, you've been there for a few months now and you had spring training. Kyle Schwarber, what is so special about Schwarber? All you hear is, oh, Schwarber's the greatest clubhouse guy. Can you explain it to someone out there that's never been in a clubhouse or a locker room, what he does that's so special?
I think he's a superstar in his own right? Like he's a stud, right? But he doesn't act like one, right? Like, and not to say that in a bad way. He's just as down to earth as they come. Like, just hilarious, keeps everything light. He's the guy that everyone goes to. He's the guy that, I mean, he's, I guess, lack of a better term, like the glue guy, right? He's like, always keeping things. He's our mic guy on the bus. Like, he's always keeping things light. But in the same sense, he's unbelievable. Like, he's out there just posting every single day, hitting homers. I mean, it's so funny to be around him because, from like his just career trajectory just is absolutely unbelievable. And you would expect someone of that caliber to kind of act a certain way, not in a bad way, but just like, he's just so humble and so down to earth that it's easy to talk to him. And he's always just going up to everybody and just keeping things light. And I think that's what makes it so special.
Brad, what's it like? Are you happy JT got signed? And I know you didn't know him before they signed him back, but how's it been throwing to JT?
It's been awesome. It's a completely different perspective. I didn't get to work with him a whole lot in spring, so kind of early in the season, he's like, don't be scared to shake me. I'm still trying to learn you and everything. But he's like, by the end of the year, he's like, we'll get this thing down pat. And it's amazing to see, him work back there. And like, he's unbelievable framing. He's unbelievable game caller. Just, it's a lot of fun to get to know him, and obviously, like he's a stud in his own right as well. So, being able to throw to a catcher of that caliber is awesome, and it kind of again it takes the thinking out of us when we get in the game. It's like I got all the trust and faith in JT, and coming in the game, he knows all these hitters like the back of his hand already, and that helps us out a lot, gives us a lot of confidence coming in the game.
When you do get to throw to a brick house like JT, and then the next day maybe you're throwing to Stubby, are you scared you're going to hurt Stubby?
No.
Yeah,
no, but I always say this. It's so funny because JT's bigger, right? And so Stubby every time Stubby's glove's huge, and so I kind of feel like I just see Stubby's eyes and there's glove and nothing else. It's so funny.
Everyone's bigger than Stubby. Not just JT. I'm bigger.
Oh man.
Is he one of the smaller catchers in baseball?
I feel like he's got to be, right?
I think in baseball history, I think he's one of the smallest.
It's weird.
He's one of the smallest players, Stubby. Stubby's like a little guy. I mean, it's amazing what he's been able to do with his size, honestly.
I will say he's got a cannon for an arm, though.
Yeah, he showed it off. I mean, he played a little bit of the outfield. I mean, he's kind of bounced around everywhere. I think he played a little bit of first base the other day. He played the outfield, and first ball in the outfield, he just let it ride. It was like, got to show it off, might as well.
Last one from me, Brad. Which teammate has the most impressive tool?
I mean, we have so many guys. I mean, obviously Harper's a superstar, Schwarber's a superstar, Wheels and Sanchi, unbelievable. Duran. I mean, I think for me, watching Sanchi pitch up close is probably the most impressive thing I've ever seen. Like that run that he just went on is honestly like it's hard to put into words. Going 50 2/3 scoreless, like in today's game, like it's unbelievable, and how like composed he was through the whole thing, and just like going about his business, like just another day at the ballpark. It's awesome. I mean, he's a superstar, and each year he gets better, and it's been a lot of fun to watch that, and I'm excited. I think he's on the mound tonight, so I'm excited to watch that as well.
Yeah, he's been fun to watch. You got a good set of teammates there. Brad, thanks for joining us, man. Thanks for hanging with us for a little bit. Good luck the rest of the way.
Yeah, thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Brad.
Yep, see you guys.
My dog Bella would do anything for a treat, and I want to give her a treat that will take care of her long term.
And a quick message from today's sponsor, the ASPCA Pet Health Insurance Program. If you're frantically looking for what to do with your pup when they have an issue, the program offers customizable accident and illness plans, making it easier to get your pet the care they need. When you enroll in an ASPCA Pet Health Insurance plan, you could get a $25 Amazon gift card. It's a little treat for you while you're doing something great for your pet. To explore coverage, visit aspcapetinsurance.com/FOUL. That's aspcapetinsurance.com/FOUL. Eligibility restrictions apply. Visit aspcapetinsurance.com/Amazon terms for more info. This is a paid advertisement. Insurance is underwritten by either Independence American Insurance Company or United States Fire Insurance Company and produced by PTZ Insurance Agency Limited. The ASPCA is not an insurer and is not engaged in the business of insurance. TV crowd's in a break for 2 minutes. We'll go over some news. Max Kepler, serving an 80-game suspension right now for PEDs, has signed on with a ball club. It's the Diamondbacks. He's eligible to come off the restricted list pretty soon, June 25th, after leaving the Twins. He played last season with the Phillies. This tweet from Aaron Gleeman. 216, 300, 391/88 OPS plus in 127 games. And AJ, the Eric Kratz joke was that the roids were not working well for him last year. Hey, it is what it is. Dude got popped. It pisses people off.
No, he shouldn't. He should have to now serve 80 games. Once he signs, like he shouldn't get that. What 80 games to do? What, sit at home? Like that is one of the biggest problems I have with this whole thing. He gets 80 games and he wasn't even signed by a team. No, some team should have to take him on, and then he gets the 80. They put him on the roster, and then they get the 80 games. It should be a deterrent. Well, he got to sit at home, and now he's just going to sign with the Diamondbacks for no reason. And now he gets to go to spring training basically for 3 weeks and then come back and be in the big leagues with no penalty? This is what I don't understand about this, the way the suspension is. He should have to be on a team and then serve the 80 games, not, oh, I got popped and now I'm just going to sit out for 80 games and do nothing at home. Like, come on.
100%. Yeah. I mean, this is just one of the caveats, but the PED suspension enforcement and rules are not nearly heavy enough for guys, and this is just one of those little caveats. This you're dead on. He should not be able to just come on, sign with the team, and go play.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to rehab with the Diamondbacks. Assignment, obviously, minor league assignment. Then he's going to be up in the show. In terms of a team that was going downhill, we probably talked about the Padres more than any other team last week. I remember the show that AJ and I did ourselves. We were talking about them a lot, and it hasn't gotten better in the last few days, including over the weekend. They dropped a series to the Mets. They've lost 11 of 13 now is what they've lost. Friday was really bad. So they were shut out for the 7th time already this season, 5-0 loss to the Mets, and multiple injury issues popped up. So we learned that Ramon Laureano, who had been out, actually had torn labrum surgery. It sounds like he'll miss the rest of the season. Usually that timetable is several months. Jeremiah Estrada on the aisle with a knee issue. They don't expect that to be serious, but still you miss him for a little bit of time. And then nothing's changed yet with some of the big boys, especially Manny Machado. Bob Nightingale was very pointed with his tweet. Did you see this one, AJ? He's like, someone is going to lose their job with Machado struggles. He is now hitting 169 with a 596 OPS. We're nearly halfway through the season.
Yeah. What do you listen? They changed. Listen, Victor Rodriguez, who was their hitting coach the last couple of years, is great. I had him in Boston. He was the assistant. He was absolutely awesome. You're right. He got it. The Padres were better hitters last year. Now, do years change? Yes. But averages don't drop as much as they have this year for the Padres. They're last in batting average. I know batting average doesn't matter, but 214, 60 games into the year ain't going to get it done. You can only pitch so well, right? They're last in runs, last in hits, last in on base, last in slug, and last in OPS. You're not going to – they're lucky to be where they are because they're pitching so damn good, and Mason Miller and the bullpen has been so damn good. But hitting-wise, I hate to throw it all on Steven Souza Jr., who's their new hitting coach, but something's got to change. Manny Machado the other day said, hey, maybe we have too much analytics. Well, in San Diego, Manny Machado says something, that's usually pointing at something. So, again, I don't know. I don't want to put it all on Steven Souza Jr. I know Vic, and I played for Vic, so maybe I'm a little biased towards Vic, the old hitting coach. But, man, this is bad when you look up and you say, last, and all those numbers, it's crazy.
It is, and I know Steven a little bit from his playing days. I don't know him much as a coach. I think he's kind of big into that teacher man philosophy, like we were talking about earlier a little bit, AJ. But if that's the case, look, hitting is such a unique thing. It's very individual. Everybody has different feels. Everybody approaches it different. There's not one way to do it. And I know that the teacher man philosophy has gotten very popular because Aaron Judge is the best hitter on the planet, and he buys into that and he hits them, and that's great because it works for him. But it doesn't work for everybody, and so I hope that it's not a Sousa's not really doing a one. This is the way to fix everything by doing this one move and having this one feel kind of thing, because that can derail some stuff quickly, and that might be what's happening. Again, I don't know, but it's not good, and it's. From an offensive standpoint, it's really not good. But the good thing they have is they have some proven guys that have had success in the big leagues for a long time, and so they can fall back on that. And as a hitting coach, I feel like that's majority of your job is being a therapist and talking to your hitters and helping your hitters be in a positive mindset. Because as such, it is the hardest thing to do in sports to hit, bar none. It's such a volatile thing. If any little thing is off, you're not going to have success doing it. Whether that's mentally, physically, whatever it is. And so that's the main job of the hitting coach. And they got to get it figured out as a team.
Wait, question for you, because, recently out of the sport, you played with a lot of superstars, and I know some of them are really open to criticism, and others kind of want to do their own thing related to also, yes, having a private hitting coach and all of that. How have you seen that dynamic with some teams when a guy is struggling and the team probably has a suggestion, but you have to be really delicate with the player depending on who it is, right? And I'm not just saying this for Machado, but think about it, right? Without knowing the exacts of the situation, if you're the Padres and he's been your guy for a long period of time, you probably have to be a little delicate. I'm sure he's, in the cage trying to figure things out, but a lot of people try to start giving you advice when it's really not working for this amount of time. It's been a while now.
Exactly. And that's where being that therapist that I was talking about comes into play. You have to know your players, know how to approach your players, know how to communicate with your players. I play with a guy like Matt Chapman. He wants you to grab him by the throat, tell him that he sucks, and tell him this is why he sucks, and this is what he's doing that sucks, and this is why he's the worst hitter in the game. And he wants you to do that stuff to fire him up. And then there's some guys that you got to be delicate with. There's some guys that you have to wait for them to come to you. There's some guys that you can show them one or two things. If you show them a handful of things, it's going to overwhelm them. Some guys like the more information. So it's truly about the individual player and what buttons do you have to push on that player to make them successful. It's a hard job. Being a hitting coach is the hardest coaching job in sports, truly. And it's you never get the credit and you always get the blame. So it's but yeah, San Diego's looking for somewhere to throw the blame right now.
Yeah, and Laureano was really good for them last year. AJ, that proved to be a great.
But this is what happens. The number one job guy that gets fired on the coaching staff is usually the hitting guy. I'm sorry, it sucks. That's why hitting jobs are really hard, and the guys that can do them well and stick around for a long time are really special. The hitting and the pitching coach, those are like the first guys. Now, if you have a manager like an Alex Cora or someone like that, there are managers. The GM will come and say, "Hey, we want to get rid of this. We want to change this," and those managers will say, "You know what? You're not firing your coach, my coaches without me." I remember back in the day, Tom Kelly, they wanted to get rid of his old pitching coach, Dick Such, and he's like, "No, if he goes, I go." Well, guess what? Next year we had Ron Gardenhire as a manager, right? And this year the rumor is that Alex Cora, they went to him and said, I don't know if this is true or not, but it's what I was reading, that hey, they wanted to maybe make some coach changes on the coaching staff, and he said, if they go, I go. Well, that's kind of the way it is, because what did we talk about in New York in this offseason? They changed all the coaches, but Mendy got to keep his job, right? It just depends on how loyal you are to these people and how good you think these coaches are, and if you have enough confidence in yourself that you can find another job once you're let go. Because GMs will do this. Hey, we got to change your coaching staff, and if you say no as a manager, they'll let you go right with them.
Right. It's tricky. I mean, the prime example this year was the Phillies, and it was the same example several years ago. It might not be that person's fault, but you have to do something, or you feel like you have to do something as an organization. You can't get rid of the players in April, May, even June for the most part. So Topper took over years back for Joe Girardi, and it turned into a great run and a nice coaching career for him with the Phillies. Same thing is going on right now with Don Mattingly. We knew this team was, or we figured this team was better than what it looked like. It was playing like super poor. They had to do something. You got to do. The hitting coaches often get picked on, but you also know what you're signing up for.
Yes, every coach is hired to be fired. I'm sorry, every coach, every manager is hired to be fired at some point. There's very few coaches, managers that get to go out on their own, players for that matter, get to go out on their own terms. It doesn't happen.
Yep.
The thing with the changing is that they have a new staff. They changed it going into this year, and so it's a lot of times that stuff isn't what you need, But right now something's got to get going for them. And so, do you fire somebody that you just brought in, and even though he's 40 games in, it's time to make a switch? I don't think so. I think that it's just somebody getting a good hit and getting that snowball going down the hill, because it is contagious. Hitting is contagious in a positive way and a negative way.
All right, good stuff. Let's get to a little front office movement and talk about the Mets, the Yankees, and many other teams with Jim Duquette coming up next.
Everything's looking great. I've been hitting all of my marks right now. Yesterday was Wednesday, so it was 14 weeks. We're fast approaching to the 17-week mark, which after surgery, it's a pretty symbolic mark, because then I'm going to start doing two-handed like plyometrics. So like with med balls, doing two-handed throws, soccer throws, all kinds of things. So it's the first step where we're introducing a little bit of lay back to the elbow, to the ligament, couple throws, like a little bit of those motions. So everything's been feeling really well. Everything leading up to that point is just strengthening, building capacity, the conditioning aspect of it, the mobility, reshaping my whole body. So like, once you hit your lowest point, you're just open to the biggest change. So like, let me just break myself down to pieces and then just put it together even better than it was before. So just taking advantage of the time, like obviously I was giving all this time to work out and work on myself without thinking that I'm going to be tired to pitch. So might as well just do the best that I can.
Great attitude as always from Pablo Lopez. You've come across him a lot, AJ, right?
Mm-hmm. He's great. He's awesome. He's
Yeah.
awesome to talk to. He's great. He gets it. It sucks he's hurt. He's one of the best pitchers. He's one of the best guys, best people in Major League Baseball. He just gets it.
Yeah, he's super smart, and that's our Twin Cities Territory show, by the way, with Pablo Lopez on it. If you want to hear the full episode, Cody Clemens is joining our show tomorrow. He'll be on FT, so we're looking forward to that. Did you face him much, Whit?
Pablo?
Yeah.
Yeah, Pablo was he's nasty. Yeah, he's nasty. He's really nasty. And so he needs to be healthy, because he can be one of the better pitchers in the American League, and just hasn't quite been right the last couple of years.
And I would say anyone that's been on the show over the offseason did not think the Twins were going to be good. I wouldn't say that they're good, but they're not bad. And man, missing Pablo Lopez is really a difference maker. They'd probably have several more wins already on the season. With
Joe
someone like
Ryan
that.
were a good one too. And now they
They
lost
are.
Bailey Ober, right? Bailey Ober's out for a bit too now. So
Imagine if they had Louis Varland in their back of their bullpen.
Oof. That's a tough one.
What a trade.
Top 3 reliever in the sport right now. And they gave him
Like
up.
5 years of control.
I don't get it. I don't. I got some of the others if they wanted to just get rid of everything, but a guy under that control making no money, I will never understand that one. Maybe we'll get a story someday. But all right, let's get ready for Jim Duquette. Hey, we're going to have some more regular appearances with Jim Duquette, our front office insider here. So we're looking forward to that. You can see him and hear him on a number of other spots too. So we'll get into some of the teams that you probably see the most, Duke. Great to have you, though. We're excited to have you a little bit more frequently here. What's up, man? So I'm going to give you dealer's choice. Yeah, we're excited, man. You want to go Mets or Orioles first? Which road would you like to dance down?
They're equally below average. So let's go with Baltimore for now. Why not?
Okay. Well, better lately, right? Better last 2
Better
weeks.
lately.
And that's all it takes to get back in the American League wild card. So anything looking different?
I think their pitching has been better for sure. I think the offense has perked up a little bit too. Pete is, he's off to a slow start, but now he's been swinging up much better. Kowser has been, since he had the back-to-back walk-off homers, he seems like he's playing better. There's still some hiccups along the way. Offensively, defensively too. Yesterday, defensively, it cost. They really should have won that game. I thought. They had the lead. Obviously, there's the bad call, in my opinion, from the umpire in the out of the baseline there by Clement. But I think that's still a game they should have won, but their defense tripped them up. So there's been some issues there. But to your point, I think they have been playing better. I think mostly the starting pitching has turned around a little bit. Notwithstanding Bradish's outing the other day, but Boz has been good. They've had a couple of the young pitchers obviously pitching better. So. I'm a little more optimistic, and to your point, just because of how average the American League is, they can stay in this race a little bit longer than most, and a lot of it's going to end up turning it up to what can Mike Elias do at the trade deadline? I don't know if there's another guy in their system that can come up and help them all that much, but I do think they're going to have to make a trade probably for pitching here moving forward. So, yeah, I like what I've seen. The last 2 weeks or so, in particular. Prior to that, man, I wasn't sure they were going to be able to come out of it. So, thankfully, they have.
Jim, a couple things you just mentioned. One, they don't have any prospects. Wait, I thought this was the team that had a million prospects. They had so many prospects. They were just falling. They were falling all over themselves with prospects, right? What happened to all the prospects? And then what's going on with Gunnar? I got to know what you look up. You see Gunnar 222. That's not
Yeah.
Gunnar Henderson. I've watched some of their games. What's going on there? Answer the prospects obviously first, and then we can get into Gunnar a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I'll tell you what, AJ, the prospects, and sometimes when I was in the front office for as long as I was, there was always this, oh yeah, we've got a ton of prospects, 30 prospects, 30 big leaguers. You're like, no, you don't. I mean, nobody has that many, but you like to think that, right? And so your scouting director is like, yeah, we've got, this impact, this guy's a major leaguer, he's an everyday regular, and you're always trying to self-evaluate, but a lot of times it's an over-evaluation. And I think with them, what I don't know is this age-old question: is it the scouting director and their issues when they're not not playing well at the major league level, or is this a development issue where they're not getting them ready to play at the major league level? And I've talked to a lot of scouts that have seen their system here recently. I don't get out to see their minor leagues at all, but the scouts that are still, by the way, employed by teams, that's a whole different topic. But the fact that ones that are still out there and they're covering the minor leagues, you hear time and time again in their player development system, they chase velocity more than they chase pitchability. They chase exit velocity versus approach at the plate. And it kind of checks out when you see them at the major league level. That's what you're seeing, with some of their offensive players and some of the, the lack of versatility on the defensive side. I mean, we've been talking about roster flexibility for at least a decade, I feel like, in that the Orioles either they don't believe in it or they're not paying attention. They're just not paying attention to it. I don't know what exactly the issue is, but they've had those problems. They've had a host of injury problems up and down the organization. So I don't like any problems that you have. There's no one specific thing, but those are some of the things that I think are highlighting why their minor league system has taken a pretty big hit over the last couple of years.
Jim, what do you got on Adley? I mean, Adley was. I remember when he made his debut. Adley was the next coming, and he's had some really down years the last couple of years. As a guy from your lens, do you still see him as the guy that can kind of carry this team with Gunnar? I mean, and Gunnar's obviously not playing like he should be playing, but do you see those two as being able to carry that team to get deep into playoffs?
Yeah, I say, and I didn't finish AJ's question with Gunnar, but we can get into that a little bit more. But he, for me, Gunnar, the talent is still there. I think he's going through some struggles in the frustration. I'm not sure he's handled the frustration all that well, and you see a lot of, there are guys who get the ass, when they struggle and they're throwing stuff or they're breaking bats in the dugout. He throws a lot of equipment. He shows the frustration and wears it on his sleeve a little bit more than I had thought. But I think he's got too much talent to not come out of this at some point, and he has the right mindset. Adley's an interesting guy because I feel like his development at the major league level was affected by a couple of injuries. I don't think he was in the greatest shape a couple years ago. He's fixed that, or it's not as big of an issue. That catching spot, as you guys know, that can be a grind, but I think they're doing a better job of balancing the playing time between him and Basayo behind the plate. And so I do think with Rutschman, while maybe he's not going to be the superstar that they had hoped and maybe that you were expecting with the number one overall pick a couple years ago, I still think he's going to be a good everyday regular But it's you got to change your mindset. I remember when I was with the Orioles and we had Matt Wieters, right? And they were like, oh, he's Joe Mauer with power. Like he didn't turn out to be that, but he was still a really good major leaguer for over 10 years. I think we might at the end have the same opinion of Rutschman at the end of this when his career gets towards the end. But I still think that there's time, obviously, because of the switch hitting abilities and some of the health issues that derailed his early part of his career, that he has a chance to be, maybe not the superstar, but an everyday regular and a sometime all-star. And I think that's where I view it from the scouting lens.
Jim, there's another team we mentioned, the Mets. What do you think's going on with the Mets? They played a little bit better recently. They have some guys coming back. Lindor's supposed to be coming back. Senga, who knows? Luis Robert, he never wants to play, so he'll probably. Polanco's not coming back anytime soon. So, what's happening with the Mets? The Soto thing where he didn't run the ground ball out, and he was, people were all over him on social media. But are the Mets? Do they have a chance to get back in this with as good as Atlanta and especially Philly has been playing?
I don't know, AJ. I don't think they can catch Atlanta. And we all get a chance to watch a lot of baseball. I don't think there aren't many teams as good as Atlanta right now. The Dodgers for sure. The way the Phillies have been playing the last, whatever it is, 35, 30, almost 40 games now. I think you can put them in that company as well, even though they had such a slow start. I think with the Mets. First off, they don't have the starting pitching that the Phillies have, but they also, still have Lindor out for a while, and like you said, Robert, you have to almost plan on him not coming back. The guy that I was hopeful for the Mets would come back was Polanco, just based off of what he did last year, and he helps give that lineup some balance. He had a setback in his recovery, so I'm starting to wonder if this is more 2024 Polanco than last year's version that the Mets have. So, to your point, they've been playing better. I was just looking at their record before I came on, 19-15 since May 1st. I mean, you would take that under normal circumstances, but they were 10-21 in the early part, on April 30th. So you really, and I've been trying to see if there's a pathway for them to get better, kind of go on that run that the Phillies have, and until they get McClain back completely. Maybe Minaya, is starting, even though he's in the bulk role. Maybe he's starting to figure some things out here, with Christian Scott pitching better. Maybe the rotation, while it's not the Phillies, can help them kind of go on a little bit more of a run. But until they get Lindor back, I don't know what to think of this team. And even with Bichette sometimes showing that he's swinging it better, it's still been, I was interested hearing Whit talk about, the hitting coaches, and, Bichette is kind of his own dude and doesn't really trust the coaches, any coaches for that matter. And, can he stay with his approach? He's had a lot of, expected. I don't believe necessarily in the expected numbers, but when you're struggling like Bichette is, that's all you can really hang your hat on right now. Can he at least stay with his same approach and maybe eventually those numbers start to creep up? I'm hopeful for him. But, until he starts to really swing it the way he's capable, they're not going to go on that run either. So they have a lot of things that are wrong with the team. And, yeah, they are playing a little bit better, no question. But I don't think we're going to see the best of them until Lindor comes back.
We talked a little bit earlier in the show about the Red Sox and where they were as far as roster setup with the trade deadline coming up. What do you see the Mets doing? Because the Mets just spent $100 million for 2 years on Bo or whatever crazy number it was, and they got all this money invested in Lindor and Soto, and they're not scared to spend money. But do you see them kind of jumping ship on some guys come this trade deadline?
I think we're going to know in a month for sure if they should or not. If they keep playing at this pace, and they're like 5 more games over 500 over the next month, another, let's say 17-12, month of June, something along those lines, it wouldn't surprise me if they held those guys. Peralta is the one guy that would get, I think, a lot back in return if you're going to make him available. They don't have a ton. I don't think, they might decide to move Bo at the end of this because he's got an opt-out at the end of the year. But I really think that they are so wired to win now that I know if I were in David Stern's shoes right now, if I went to the owner and said we need to pull the plug on this season, I probably would duck underneath the desk and hope that he wasn't ready to punch me. I mean, you're going to suffer the wrath, which he's, I'm sure, already receiving from Steve Cohen. So I think that they won't do it lightly. I think they're going to delay that decision as long as they can. But we were talking about this with Jim Bowden today. When you kind of look at yourself in the mirror eventually, and you realize, hey, you know what? We're not the team that we hoped to be, and you have to, that reality comes. It comes to some people a little bit later. I'm hopeful for the Mets since I follow them so much that they're going to be in the mix, but it feels like they're more trending in the other direction because I just don't think they have the starting pitching. Now, if they could stay in there until Holmes comes back, that's a different story. But he would be an interesting trade candidate too once he gets back and healthy.
Yeah, he's a free agent at the end of the year, so he would be, but he's got to prove he's healthy, and that sucks. Hey, as a former front office guy, we had this discussion before you came on about the Padres, and AJ Preller hires Craig Stammen. I don't know how much choice Craig Stammen had and who he hired as coaches, or if he was just said, hey, maybe, sometimes you front office guys, you give them one coach or two coaches, and you say, hey, you got to keep these guys around. But the hitting coach situation, how soon is too soon to fire a hitting coach or a pitching coach or a coach in general? And how much leeway do the managers have in picking their own coaches?
So that has changed over the years. Now with Craig being there in the front office prior, and was right next to AJ, you would have thought that they could have come to this conclusion and these decisions together. I don't think Craig was in a position once he became the manager that he was going to say no to anything that was recommended by AJ. But you'd like to think of all of the groups that were, the GM and manager slot, that they would have been on the page a little bit more than anybody else. The Mets, as an example, they fired all of Carlos Mendoza's coaches, and basically it felt like they told him, here's who you're going to end up hiring. So, and I'm not a fan of that either. I always felt like, the manager and GM should be able to do this together and figure out the coaching staff. And by the way, they should decide if they need to make a change together. But a lot of times in the front office, you guys were talking about this earlier, the manager he's vested in the coaching staff and what they're doing and how they're doing. And they have that view behind the scenes. And, you're trying to look at it either objectively by saying, the message is stale, or you're not seeing the results, and so you can't change out all the players on the roster. So the only thing you really can do is doing the coaching staff or one of the coaches. I was never a big fan of firing. I fired a couple of coaches in the middle of the season, hitting coaches. One time it worked, the two other times it didn't. And I feel like it's very, very limited what you can expect out of that. But you're in a position where you're just frustrated. You want to try to do something. It maybe changes the mindset, or maybe it fires up a player or two, or change just a little different message. So there's things like that you can try to do. I am, now that I've seen it on both sides, I'm a little skeptical that it works at all in season. So if I'm in a Padres situation, it does feel like a change needs to be made. But I'm not really sure that that's going to help all that much. Maybe adding a player or two if they could in a trade might help. That's probably what AJ decides to do.
Jim, recently we've had a bunch of CBA talk. I'm already sick of talking about it. I'm sure you've talked about it on your show plenty. I know the first proposals, they don't mean anything, although I guess it means that they're at least talking a little bit. But is there any hope for this? Is there any hope on the horizon that we're not going to have a long labor stoppage? Because baseball is on fire right now.
Yeah, you know what? And I'm with you, man. I've already tapped out in the CBA talk just because, we're killing our own product if we're talking about how supposedly different our opinions are on what the next CBA is going to look like. And we've had all this momentum, positive momentum, with the way the play's been, the way the players have helped turn things around. Obviously, there's a lot more interest here in the last 4 or 5 years that you've seen in the attendance. So, for me, going back to when we had the strike and the lockout. I was just starting out in the front office at the time, but I remember it well. The one thing that I'm fearful of, that would cause us a potential work stoppage. Back then, a lot of the owners took for granted the product. They didn't, and they took for granted how unified the union and the players were. And I mean, some of those owners are still involved, but a lot of them have changed and have sold and they're out. And what I worry about is, commissioner's job. We all know that he works for ownership, but the other aspect of that is making sure we don't lose any games. If they are insistent on having a salary cap and the players insist on not having it, then we are going to miss games going forward. But I'd like to think that there's so much money at stake here that these initial proposals, they're closer than it appears, from a PR side of things, and we could actually come to an agreement without a salary cap. I do not agree with the commissioner. I think that to some degrees, the luxury tax and the threshold has curbed spending. I think they've misallocated the money. That money should go only to the small market teams. It shouldn't go to, spread out to all the teams who stay under the luxury tax when they're spreading out the money from the luxury tax itself. So I think if they reassign it, they increase the tax a little bit more. There's some things like that I think they could do. To me, that would be the first preference rather than trying to force a salary cap down everyone's throat.
Speaking of salary cap, Jim, I mean that's the hot word of this labor negotiation is the salary caps. How much of it do you think they're pushing for? The ownership is pushing for because it's going to make it a more balanced playing field versus it's going to be more money in their pocket. What's the percentage on that, you think?
Yeah. So, I'm skeptical that it's going to balance things out from the playing field perspective. I think there are ways that, you guys know as players personally, and you see this in the NBA when there's a salary cap going on, players, if they want to play in LA as an example, because they're the ones that seem to take the brunt of this. If players want to play in with the Dodgers, they're going to find a way to do it within the salary cap. They're not going to go to a small market club if they don't want to, and so I don't think it's going to prevent those high end free agents from going to where they want to go. Personally, they'll have to take less money, but I think they'll be willing to do it. Some of them will to win. So I don't think it's going to necessarily improve the imbalance that we have on spending. So I think there's ways around that to kind of curb the spending from a taxation rate instead. And I think from the owner's side of things, they are convinced that this is going to help the valuations of their team, the salary cap. And I think that's why you saw 3 or 4 teams that were up for sale, then they pulled them off the market, and they're just waiting to have this, we'll call it clarity on the CBA. If there's a salary cap, maybe the valuations will go up, exponentially. But I think there are better ways to do it than just insisting on a salary cap. And I keep saying this over and over. And I'm in the minority. It feels like I don't think we're going to miss games because cooler heads will end up prevailing. But you can't insist on having a salary cap and think that we're not going to miss games.
That's awesome. I'm happy that someone finally said that. And also, what you brought up is in the NBA, right? The super teams. Well, LeBron James got certain players to come and they took a little bit less, but hey, we'll win. Or the Warriors, right? When they got Kevin Durant to come there for a little bit less, but hey, we'll win. That's what I feel like. And it's a little bit harder in Major League Baseball because there's more players. But at the same time, you get guys that say, hey, I want to play in LA. I want to win. I'm a free agent. I'll go there. And they'll just, I don't know. Will it work? I don't know. But I'm just happy to hear you say, A, super teams, and B, you're the first person we've had on that doesn't think we're going to miss games. So, Jim, to that, thank you.
Let's hope.
Yes.
All right, then let's get off of that. Let's go to let's finish with Tarik Skubal here. So
Yeah.
I thought that was big news from the weekend to see him actually come back. We'd been talking about it. You've been hearing. I feel like there were quite a few skeptics. Like, oh, we'll see how quickly he can come back. It's been a month, Duke. Bone chips, surgery, barely if you call that surgery. And
Yeah.
he looked like he was ready to hop into a major league game in that rehab start, and then did some extra pitches. So he's at 70. He's going to be back in like a week. What do you think of all this?
Boy, I'll tell you, we're going down this slope. I thought, and I keep wondering who's pushing the envelope here. It's got to be Tarik Skubal, right? And certainly, you're going to play it in the front office. You're going to play off of how he feels and all of that. But this is such an unusual thing, and his recovery and response is so unique. And the surgery is brand new. Like, you don't have anything else to base this on. Man, there is a lot at stake here as a player. And just for him being a free agent at the end of the year, like all of this, I'm all for the medical advances that we've seen in the sport, and we've seen a lot of good ones. Obviously the internal brace with Tommy John, and this now looks like it's going to end up being a unique way to come back from bone chips and loose bodies. But I just keep wondering, going, man, if it doesn't work, I tend to look at the downside more just from my GM lens. What happens, for him if it doesn't work and he ends up re-injuring this? That has been my overriding concern. And I know they've tried to be conservative in this, and it's been impressive, the fact, like you said, Scott, it's a month and a day from the day he had surgery. And maybe there's a way, because there wasn't a lot of information there, that this is going to work out great. I hope it does, because it's great for the sport and it's great for him. But we're in that area where we don't know how to judge it, right? And we don't know what to expect because we've never seen it before. And that always is a scary proposition, from any perspective. So I guess you keep riding it out. I've had AJ Hinch on my show every week, and he was like, hey, we're trying to be conservative. Tarik's the one who's pushing this, and I guess that's the way you go, but you also have to be careful. You want to protect him against himself sometimes too. So, I don't know. We get two former players on here, and usually I feel like there are times when the front office or the manager is giving subtle hints like, hey, we need to get you out on the field, and this seems like it's the reverse. And hey, with his stature and how good he is, why wouldn't you, play off of what he has to say and how he's feeling? But man, oh man, there's a big risk here if it doesn't work out.
Hey, Jim, couple of your former teams here. We're going to do a segment next after we're done speaking with you about injuries and how certain teams have more injuries throughout their organization. Do you think that's an organizational wide thing, or do you think it's luck of the draw? Do you think it's the way they make guys play? Do you think more teams are apt to put guys on the IL because of money situation? And it's the Orioles, the Mets, and the Yankees. So or have been, even including the minor league. So what's your thought on this as a former front office person that has been through this before?
I enjoyed reading that article you're talking about in The Athletic, and it was really well done. In the past, when you're dealing with these type of injuries, over a certain period of time, if you have the same type of injuries, you usually would do kind of a self-evaluation, try to figure out, is there something in common that was causing these type of injuries. I remember back in my Mets days, we had a whole host from the major leagues all the way down to the minor leagues with Tommy John surgeries. At the time, there weren't a lot of pitch counts. We were one of the first to institute pitch counts, good or bad. we didn't want guys getting injured, and so we thought that was a way to at least solve the problem. We've seen over time that's not helped much at all. The injuries are still there at a high level. So, I think when it comes to let's say the Mets and the Yankees, I think there's a willingness there to maybe push the envelope a little bit more. Injuries don't, even though they affect every team, it doesn't hurt them as much because they can cover it up with spending more money on other players and replacement. It's teams like the Orioles or some of these other kind of lower spending teams, when they have those type of injuries and they can't cover up for it, that's where it really impacts them, I think, a little bit more. And just watching some of the soft tissue injuries that the Orioles have had, I feel like there's a training aspect to this that needs to be really reevaluated. From the sports performance area, from the medical side, all of it. And I don't know if they're doing it. It doesn't seem like they're having that self-evaluation right now that needs to be done. So we know that in the game, the injuries are, especially in the pitching side, are to almost epidemic proportions. And a lot of that has to do with the training of high-end velocity. We all know that. But I think that with the Orioles and some of the soft tissue injuries that you're seeing, even with their position players, there has to be some kind of accountability within the training staff, the medical staff, and the sports performance. I don't see it happening with them at the moment. So it's unfortunate. They've had all those injuries, and I think that they got rid of a couple of really good trainers, experienced trainers, replaced them with inexperienced guys. That's never a good sign either. So I think there's a couple of places that you can point the fingers, at least from the Orioles side.
Yeah, and that's a tougher fix. I mean, when you're dealing with that, it usually takes some time, when you're doing a restructure like that. We're going to get into that in the next segment. Dude, good stuff, man. Great to catch up with you.
All right,
and
guys.
again, great to have you on for more of these.
Yep, I appreciate it. Good to see you.
You too. That's Jim Duquette. We'll be right back. Hey, on the topic of injuries, Royce Lewis has been through it, but they optioned him. He had a good attitude. He went down. He's learning multiple positions. He played multiple positions over the weekend. He was hitting the crap out of the ball in AAA, so he got called up. Here's the unfortunate part for the marketing team, AJ. The Twins had a Royce Lewis replica jersey giveaway. They took it off the promo schedule it was for Friday when he was optioned, right? That was optioned a couple weeks ago. Saints down in AAA, they schedule a separate Royce Lewis t-shirt giveaway for that day. He gets called up by the Twins. Marketing departments everywhere are melting down.
Well, this reminds me, was it Jason Tyner back in the day? They had a bobblehead with the Rays and they DFA'd him like a week before, and they were like, we're just going to give the bobbleheads out anyways. I think they did, or I don't know what they did, but it's kind of it's funny only on the fact that they had all these T-shirts things lined up for him, but it's not funny for Royce Lewis who got sent down. But he did come up and have a nice game yesterday, so at least he had that.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man. I mean, we played the Twins in 2023 in the wild card game, and that guy was their best player by far. And just it's unfortunate that he can't seem to get out of the way of the IL and just can't seem to get it back. And he's a great dude, so I'm really cheering for him. Hopefully he can figure it out.
Yeah. He's always very open in interviews and all of that. And man, I mean, you've seen some ridiculous runs for him when he's feeling it. He just did it. I know it was in AAA, but when he got optioned just now, I mean, he didn't look like he belonged there. He looked like he needed to be in the big league. So we'll see what that looks like. But he's been open about thinking he's going to get traded and just kind of going through it emotionally with the way that the team has gone through it. So we'll see. But sucks for the marketing department. And also for anyone that was trying to buy tickets for either of those promo giveaways, they're like, hello, can I get my promo? No.
Seems like there's a different better communication along those lines in the team. Hey, let's just.
The promo doesn't care. The front office doesn't care about the promo schedule. They're trying to figure out how to have the best team. So they're like, oh, T-shirts, we'll give them away a different time. We'll sell them in the Twins garage sale, flea market.
Are they trying to figure out how to have the best team? To an extent,
they're competing this year. But they said they're competing this year.
They're around. They're here. They're here. I don't
they
think
need Royce Lewis to play well if they're going to compete. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah. Big time. All right. We're going to hit some injuries on this deep dive segment coming up. Some MLB organizations are more injury prone than others. Is that bad luck or a system issue? The Athletics, Cyrus and Brittany Giroli put this one together. the 3 most injury-prone organizations since 2024, going back to 2022, going back to 2012. The Orioles, the Yankees, the Mets. There's a lot of good research in this article about age differential and teams that are valuing swing speed and exit velocity and velocity from pitchers, stuff from pitchers. Of course, they all value that to an extent, but how they're getting there versus weighing keeping guys on the field, I thought was very interesting. So, for example, also those 3 organizations I'm talking about have the most injured pitchers in the minor leagues. So that's specifically the spot that stands out. The Yankees are just way past everyone in minor league games lost due to IL during that time period. That seems to be their thing here. They also tried to separate this by players 26 years old and under since 2024 in the minor leagues, so that they weren't including some of the veteran guys that were in there, and they could look more at the development side and some of the prospects. And the Dodgers ranked among the 10 healthiest teams in that category. So it was dispelling some of the, only the big market teams have these kind of injuries because they can afford to keep the players down there or even take shots on more injury prone guys from their high school days. So here's the overall list, first of all, since 2024, 24 to 26. Yankees are on this list as 21,581 organizational days lost. Mets at a little over 20,000 or 20,500, I should say. Orioles in the 19s. And then there's a pretty big drop off to the Astros in the 16s, along with the Tigers. Thoughts here, AJ, before we begin? Oh, I see what you're saying. On
the math doesn't math. First of all, I'm trying to figure out the math here, and it doesn't math. So I don't know.
It does math on most of them. The Yankees one needs to check.
The Yankees one is the one that I'm like, wait a second, that doesn't math. So, I mean, I only went to high school. I didn't go to that high institution of South Carolina like Whit did, where they teach 2 + 2 = 5. But the math doesn't math on that. So, listen, the Yankees, they you know what? The one thing the Yankees probably do, and I don't know this, but they probably sign the 6-year free agents that go to AAA and they're a little bit older and maybe they do get hurt. They also take a little more chances with guys, I think, sometimes because they have a little more money and they can draft different people and sign different people to try to do things with them. And Mets the same way. The Orioles to me have always been an interesting team because they always say, we don't spend the money on international players and this and that. And we do things different in the draft and we try to do this. But for them to have this many injuries, I mean, that's just an organizational thing to me. There's no other way to put it other than this is an organizational philosophy, whether it's like Jim Duquette just said, soft tissue stuff or the way they handle things or the way they do rehab. It's just an organizational policy that hasn't worked. I know when I played for the White Sox, you didn't go on the DL at the time because Herm Schneider, our trainer, made you feel like absolute crap if you went on the DL. You had to be literally have a body part almost amputated for you to go on the DL.
Yeah, it's not like that anymore, AJ. It's a different time. It stinks because there's a couple reasons why these numbers are high. First off, being a lot of teams and frankly a lot of players don't feel like they don't want to play if they're not 100%. They don't feel like they can put their best product on the field, and it's going to hurt themselves if they're not out there playing at 100%. So especially if they're struggling, if their hamstring's a little sore, it's now a grade 1 hamstring strain that they need 2 weeks to fix their swing while their hamstring heals. And then they come back. The other is I started to see it a little bit towards the end, especially in the minor leagues. These minor league numbers being high is interesting because you see a lot of load management happening now with especially some of these high level prospects where they only play 4 or 5 games a week. You got to have 2 days off. They're going to take their 2 weeks off in the middle of the season, especially starting pitcher. The starting pitcher will pitch and then he'll get like just past the All-Star break and then he'll take his 3 weeks off to make sure his pitch count stays down. And that instead of, what do you do with him? You put him on the IL. So that way the phantom IL is what they call it. So that way you don't have to take up a roster spot and the guy can rest. So there's a lot of different reasons for it. The main thing is a little bit like what you just said, AJ. It's guys are okay being on the IL now, where it used to be the case where you did not want to go on the IL, especially like myself when I first got up. I didn't want to go on the IL because it took me a long time to get to the big leagues, and I didn't want somebody else to come and try to come in and Wally Pitt me and take my job. I wanted to be out there every day and play, so that way I knew I had a job. That I feel like that mentality is long gone.
Phantom IL. I mean, the Mets got in trouble for it, right? Somebody like told on the Mets or something, and they got in trouble, even though many
That was
teams
more of
do it.
a. That was just more of a. That was a personal vendetta to try to get who was the GM at the time. That was more of a personal for me. That was more of a personal thing than just like because every team. I mean, I was on the Phantom IL. I know how it goes, right? But it's what Whit said. The biggest thing that we've said this a million times on the show. The biggest ability is availability. And then we had Tom Kelly, who used to always come out and say, when I was with the Twins, can't make the club in the tub, and that means that the biggest difference I see now, and again, this is the way people are now, and it's not bad, it's not a good or bad, it's just the way it is. Guys didn't want to go in the training room. Guys, when I came up, were like, training room? No, you don't go in unless you literally are bleeding to death. You stayed out of the training room. You couldn't walk, you couldn't throw. Like you had to be injured to go to the training room. Now, like what Whit said, guys go in there for 3 massages a day, and they go in there and get this and they get that, and well, listen, good or bad, that's the way that it is now, and it's not going to change because people think this works, but it's just a change in philosophy, and guys are okay being on the IL. That's fine. That's the way teams want to do it. Hey, more power to them. But I also agree with what Whit said, and we talked about this last week. In the minor leagues, guys aren't conditioned to play every day. They're conditioned to play 6-game series, 1 day off. They might play 4 of the 6, 1 DH day and 1 off day. And you know what? They get to the big leagues and they go, man, I got to play 20 days in a row. I've never done this in my life. So to me, it's just a different mindset. Hey, whatever you think is good or bad, that's not for me to say. It was different, and now it's become this, and that's the way it is.
I'd be curious to know, and we should ask Jim this, but I'd be curious to know how much research teams do on players when it comes to their ability to be injured, frankly, and how much stock they put in that. I mean, because you would think that if a team is going to go sign this guy, especially for a lot of money, say he's a free agent, and you got a guy who breaks his ribs getting a massage or rolls his ankle stepping down the curb or something like that, where it's just like he always seems to get hurt. His body's just is always hurt. His tolerance for pain isn't high. I wonder, I mean, you would think that teams would try to put some stock into that, because truly, I don't think it's valued high enough. If you're not on the field playing and you don't know how to play with some stuff going on, and you don't know how to be a good player at 80% health, then I feel like your value, a team shouldn't value as high when that's going on. So I'd have been curious to hear from Jim. We'll have to ask him next time he's on, and this topic comes back up, that how much teams really do put value in that.
We're showing right now most MLB days lost to the injured list from 24 through 26. Dodgers leading the charge. AJ's White Sox in the 2 spot. The Red Sox 3, Mets 4, Marlins 5 for major league days. And I can think of some of these teams with arm injuries. What?
Scott, I remember when I was with the White Sox, again, this is a long time ago now, but Hershiser, our trainer, there forever. One of his biggest things was he had saved it was like thousands of days on the IL at the time, less than every other team. So then they're like, well, look how much more money he saves the team by having Hershiser employed as the head trainer, because the guys don't get injured and guys play through stuff, right? And now if you look at that, Herm's obviously not there anymore. He's been retired for a while, but the numbers have changed, right? Again, Herm used to kill us in the training room. He'd kill us. Guys would go in there and be like, oh, man, I got hit on the elbow. It's going to hurt. The rehab is going to hurt so much more than me just going to play. But that was the way it was. But that was one of Herm's biggest things. Jerry, he'd always tell Jerry, look at the numbers, Jerry, how many days on the IL I saved you.
Yeah, that makes a big difference. It does. But, yeah, you have to be much more careful in your wording. That goes for almost everything these days, but that's the thing, right? If a player hops in there and you've got Herm saying like, hey, just toughen up, get back out there. You don't want to deal with this. I mean,
how many times Herm called me a name? Literally, I never forget. I got hit all the time, obviously, and I never went in the training unless I absolutely have to. And I went in there one day in spring training. I'm like, I caught like a ball weird, and it like kind of sometimes you catch a ball like this up here, Whit, where you reach up for it and it kind of clips your shoulder a little bit. And you're like, oh man. And I never went in the training room. And I went in there one day. I said, Hermie, man, like my left shoulder hurts. I caught this pitch. I can tell you the exact pitch I did it. And he's like, stop being a wuss. Just go out there. And, and then he rubbed hot stuff all over it. And he made sure that it was like burning me. And I went in there, Herm. I'm like, Herm, man, can I get this stuff off? How do I make it? Because I'm like, just killing me. And he's like, again, quit being a wuss. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going back in there again. And I love Herm to death, right? But that's just the way it was. It wasn't like, It wasn't personal. It was just one of those things where, hey, get out there and figure out a way to play. It was tough love. And I loved it. I played that way. But again, it's just different now. And that's fine. I love you, Herm. I love you to death, pal.
Sounds like your boy Luis Robert needed some Herm in his life.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, he also has too many fans in New York, so he can't play. Oh, wait, he didn't play in front of Chicago's fans either. Sorry.
This is part of the change, though. Whit, is the organization, the White Sox. I know, obviously some of those injuries and being on that list for the last few years has to do with Eloy Jimenez, Luis Robert, Yon Moncada. Those guys are gone. Things have changed. Sam Antonacci, some of the other new guys, right, on this White Sox team. Not that they're not going to get hurt, but I mean, Chris Getz spoke about it the other day that like they want to be on the field. I think that was a direct shot at some prior players that were part of the roster. He brought up like 3 or 4 guys newer to the party there saying like these guys like will die to play on the field. And that part's obvious. He said it without saying it. One other note too, and then we'll show another board. Aaron Judge, this topic comes up at perfect timing. Judge just said on Friday, after he had been diagnosed, that he's going to get checked in another 4 to 6 weeks with a pretty serious injury, it appears, that he'd been playing through it since late April. And his reasoning was that he had seen other guys on the team go down and felt like he needed to keep playing. You don't get that very often. You don't. I mean, you guys are obviously good examples of not, playing hurt and not spending time off the field. But Aaron Judge is the best hitter of our generation, Whit. And I mean, he wasn't himself the last 6 weeks, and that was still good enough to be a star. But he admitted he was hurt. He was down, and he just didn't want to get off the field until they essentially forced him to.
Yeah, and it's funny you brought that up because I was going to mention that about it comes down to having the right kind of veterans in your clubhouse too, especially when it comes to something like this, is having an older guy that your superstar, whoever it may be, that you have a young kid that's like, my hamstring's a little tight. I don't know if I can go today. And having that veteran, pull him aside and be like, listen, man, this isn't about you. This is about the team. This is about us putting our best team on the field. You'd have to be on the field for us to be our best. You might be a little banged up. You're never going to be 100% healthy playing 162 games. You got to learn how to deal with it and do the right kind of work in the weight room and the training room and your prehab to help better yourself and put your body in a good position to go out there and play every single day. And just, I don't know, you just don't see it as much anymore, and it's a shame.
Can we show the board of the fewest days lost to the IL? So you've got the Cardinals on there, and then so they've got about 8,000, and then the A's, Royals, and Guardians, along with the Braves, are in the 10,000 range for days lost to the IL from 2024 to 2026 across the entire organization. I mean, a couple teams standing out there. The Guardians, who have been consistently good. The Braves. So that's impressive. There's some.
My question, Scott, on this board, and Whit will have to help me here because I know the Cardinals, they have a veteran trainer that's been around for a long time. Braves have a veteran trainer that's been around for a long time. I'm assuming the Guardians probably have a vet. Again, I don't know. The Royals, maybe you can speak on this, Whit. Oakland, I'm assuming. I mean, even though Oakland is now Sacramento, which is kind of funny that we have Oakland. I love it. I think their trainer hasn't changed for a while. So is it maybe the veteran trainers instead we get the new school younger trainers? Again, I don't know this, but I'm talking about the teams that I know about, like the Braves and the Cardinals. They have veteran trainers that have been around for a while, and maybe they do things a little bit old schooler. I don't know. That's not a word I know, but you guys know what I'm saying.
I think so. I mean, Kansas City has Kyle Turner, who hasn't been the head trainer for that long. I think he's been there for the head trainer for just right after I left, so 2022, I think. But he's been on staff for a long time. He's been around the game forever. And yeah, it's just having that trainer, that guy comes in and the guy's like, listen, yeah, you're a little banged up, but you're okay. Like, get out there kind of thing.
One more for you to finish this. Minor league position players younger than 26 IL days lost. Okay, position players. 2 teams. Blue Jays are by far leading the charge here, and then Yankees behind them, Phillies right after that. As someone that was recently with the Blue Jays, Whit, and we talked a lot about how they were able to combine contact and slug, but they significantly upped their average bat speed as a team. I don't think it takes a brain scientist to say that if you are enforcing swing speed training on everyone to a high degree, you are going to have injuries pop up more significantly, right? Like I think that's a pretty obvious statement, just like with velo and arms, the harder you throw. So what do you think about the way that that's getting implemented right now? I'm not saying that it shouldn't be done, but maybe some of the teams that are most aggressive with it are going to suffer more injuries.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's definitely could be a key contributor. It'd be interesting to see what the majority of those injuries were of those position players. How much was soft tissue? How much was hit by pitch? How much was that kind of stuff? How much was load management in a roundabout way, which I do think is majority of the minor league stuff these days is load management with players. But yeah, that's interesting to hear, Scott. That it could be a correlation for sure.
Yeah, and we need some more time.
But you max out. If you constantly max out, it's constantly a max effort, you're going to get hurt more. I mean, it's human nature. It's whatever you want, laws of physics, whatever the heck, whatever saying you want to use. If you just constantly, whatever you're doing, if you're constantly maxing out, at some point, something's going to go wrong. If you can take anything you want in the world, like if I have this table that the computer that I'm on is, and I constantly hit it as hard as I can, eventually it's going to break. Now, if I just tap it, it's going to break a lot longer of a time. But if I'm smashing it the whole time, first of all, my hand's going to break. Whereas I could just tap it and do that forever, and it might never happen. But as soon as I start hitting it hard, either my hand or the table is going to break quicker. It's human nature. It's whatever, laws of nature, whatever the heck you want to call it. It's a fact.
Yeah, we're pushing boundaries. Good topic. Let's swing back, and we're going to do our picks for the day, and then also we might have time for a quote from Jed Hoyer too.
I actually think like Duquette may have like asked me if I was okay. I was like, yeah, like, I like, it sucks that we lost. Like, I didn't think about like pitching. I was like, no, this sucks. Like, we're going home. And then the media was asking me about it. And especially like in that situation, a lot of the national media is there. And so they were asking me like, why didn't you pitch? Like, because Buck didn't put me in the game, like, I don't know, kind of thing. And then it kind of took like, it grew some legs and things like that. But at the time, I didn't think anything of it. I don't remember who else was down there with me. Maybe Tommy and Dylan Bundy could have been the other guy.
Yeah, probably.
Maybe Ubaldo had thrown well, but maybe, anytime you take a starter and you put him in the pen, like, unless like Kevin Gosman, I remember doing it one year, it was lights out because he threw 100, right? Mm-hmm. Like stuff played up. And I felt like with Ubaldo, like, I don't know if his stuff was going to play up out of the pen. So it's easy to second guess now. He had thrown really well, but like if it wasn't me, like maybe I thought it would have been like Tommy or Dylan, because Dylan at that time was throwing 100. So it wasn't necessarily like I thought it was going to be me. I thought maybe like they would bring like, Tommy can strike guys out, Dylan can strike guys out in that situation. But in hindsight, it really changed the course of the playoffs. I'll tell you that. I went to the World Series that year to get an award, and I remember talking to Anthony Miller, and he was like, "Gosh, man, like now I'm getting absolutely abused because no one wants to answer those questions." So I think it really changed that year, and then future years, how guys did not want to answer that question about why I left my closer in the pen.
Yeah, that was Zack Britton on the 2016 experience of not coming into the game, but we did have that with Andres Munoz, AJ.
Last year. We saw it. I don't know, man. It's just game moves fast, Scott. Game moves fast sometimes.
I do think it changed things where managers got
what he
more
said was
aggressive.
right. 100. Oh,
Yeah.
because now you have TV shows and stuff where should have put the closer in the second inning. That's why we have openers all the time now because, you can't. Your pitcher's good enough to pitch 2 through 7th inning, but he's not good enough to get that lineup out the first time through. So let's not trust him, especially if he's a young pitcher.
Got to bring your best guy in at the best time, best leverage situation of the game. You got to know if that's the 3rd inning, and you got to bring him in then. And if you don't do it, then you're not following the pamphlet that was given to you before the game. Yeah, it's weird times. Weird times, boys.
All right, let's do some BetMGM locks for this evening. Going back to Friday, Pap hit, so did Mr. Kratz, who will be back in action with us tomorrow. Let's spin it forward, some money bags, and Whit's coming back to the party here. Just one bet, so easy way for Whit to get back on the board here on the positive end. Whit, do you want to start us off today with your pick?
Sure. I just figured, talking about San Diego's struggles earlier today, there was no better bet than to bet on Machado to hit a homer tonight, because that's just kind of how this works. Is you just talk about somebody struggling, and bam, they get hot, they hit a homer, do something good. So he's playing. He's got a lefty on the mound against Cincinnati tonight, and I have a good feeling he's due, and I gotta make some hayway. And this is I think it's plus 350 for Machado to hit a homer tonight.
Yeah, it is. All right, so 100 down to win 350 would put Whit well into the green if that happens tonight. Pap has a pick for us, so let's cue that up.
FT Nation, what's up? It's your boy Parlay Pap. We making that money. It's Monday, and I got a 2-game parlay for you. Basically, I'm betting against two pitchers that are terrible. So I'm going against Walker Buehler, and I'm going against Chris Bassett. So we taking the Mariners and the Reds today in the money line. We getting plus 274, and we put 200 on it. So let's get that cheese.
Very nice.
Pap don't know
AJ,
what to do,
yours?
man. Pap don't know what to do without being able to get bet against the White Sox all the time. So he's struggling with his picks this year. I got a crazy one. Whatever. Spencer Urgetti, 5+ strikeouts. Adley Rutschman, who has owned, I forget who they're playing, but anyways, he's owned them. 1+ hit, run, or RBI combined. And then Boston over Tampa Bay over eight runs. But Adley Rutschman is owned. I forgot. I just blanked.
I think it's Corbin tonight, right?
It is Corbin. Yes, you are correct, and he has actually absolutely owned him. So yes, it is Corbin tonight. That gets me to. Or no, it's Hancock. Sorry, they're playing the.
Mariners. sorry. Yeah, Mariners.
Sorry,
right. They were playing.
But yes, he has owned him, and he's owned the Mariners in his career. So just throwing it out there, plus 285. I got to get something positive going, so I kind of went easy locks a lot. So something bad will happen. Don't worry, Whit. Something bad will happen to my guy.
Well, I'm gonna go over to Cleveland where the Yankees and the Guardians match up and see if the starters can hold up, and then get to those bullpens, especially on the Cleveland side, to keep this thing somewhat low scoring, under 8 runs. No Judge, of course. Gavin Williams on the Cleveland side. It's Warren on the Yankees side. Williams pitches better at home. I think he pitches up to the competition like the Yanks. So I'll go 236 tonight to win 200. There's your daily swing for the fences game. Swing for a shot to win a prize within the BetMGM app. It could be bonuses, could be boost tokens. Go check it out. If you get a hit, that means you'll get yourself something. Gambling problem or concern? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
But at some point, you realize there's an obligation almost as a player or former manager or current manager to those people. When did that happen in your life?
It actually happened when I was a little league. I went to, I went to the Coliseum to watch the Dodgers play, and there was a player on the Cardinals that was rude to me and told me to get out of here, kid. and I cried, and I never asked for another autograph till I was like 30 years old. And I said, if I ever make it to the big leagues, that I didn't think I was going to make it to the big leagues as a baseball player. I always thought I was going to be a basketball player. But I said to myself that if I make it to the big leagues, I'm gonna try to sign it for every kid, because I don't want a kid to feel like I felt that day.
It's Dusty Baker. Dirt from the Dugout is one of our newest shows on the FT Network, and Carl Ravitch is part of that one. So make sure you check it out. Big guests that they've had. I think Dustin Pedroia is scheduled to be on for this one. But if you want to hear some wise words from Dusty, go for it there. Yeah, there's been some good ones. We've aired almost all of them here, or at least a piece of them on FT. But check it out. Any good Dusty stories from you guys?
I mean, there's a million Dusty stories. Dusty was great. Dusty, when I got traded to San Francisco, sent me all his fishing spots. I never got to go. I should have used them. If I was traded there one time, he would have been my manager. Dusty was always great, man. He's fun to talk to. He's awesome. Now, one thing I will say about Dusty, I hate to disagree with him, but everyone says I'm going to sign every autograph, Whit, right? Sign every autograph, no matter what. And then you realize there's 2,000 kids sitting there, and you're like, I can't sign every autograph. I'll never get to go home.
Yeah, it's yeah. I don't know if he's signing for all the binder guys outside of this hotel either. But yeah, that's a cool story, and I appreciate him saying that. I never got to play for Dusty. Didn't really get to know Dusty, so I unfortunately don't have any Dusty stories. But it sounds like AJ has enough for the both of us.
Binder guys. Yeah, I think when
I like that name. We used to call them Seekers. Freaking Seekers, dude.
I have a different name for him, but I don't know if I should say it on here. But yeah.
How about the Seekers, the binder guys that would have a kid come up to you, and they got this from the dude. You just saw the dude who has 12 cards. You signed 2 of them, and he's like, "What about the other 10?" And you're like, "No." And then a kid comes up with the card you literally just saw have. He's like, "This is for me." You're like, it wasn't for him.
Write his name on it. What's your name, kid?
Oh, they hate that. The Seekers hate that.
Hey, Josh Norris from Baseball America is going to join Dodgers territory today. So if you want to hear a little prospect talk with Katie, Clint, and Alana, make sure you check it out after our show. So he'll be live around 3:10 Eastern time. That show live most times Monday and Thursday after FT. And if you're into a different team, we probably have a show for you on the FT network. We had to take a quickie break because we got behind. So we'll come right back.
He's very popular on the team, and guys around him want to succeed. And we have the ability of a rotation to kind of carry somebody. Kind of like when Sandy Koufax came to the big leagues and he was a draft pick that got $100,000 or more, and he had to stay in the big leagues for the Dodgers to keep him because that was the rule. Well, it's kind of the same thing around Sasaki. It's like the potential is there. We've got him. We got time to develop him, and we've got the talent around him that it's not going to hurt our playoff chances that he can do it. And what have I seen in him physically or mentally or emotionally? I've seen mechanical changes. I've seen consistency. I've seen the confidence grow. And that all is like executed, and the results are when he's in the strike zone. We knew if he was going to be in the strike zone, he's going to be really good. And Connor McGinnis and Mark Pryor have kind of added the slider and upped the usage of it, and he's gained confidence in that. And now he actually has a breaking ball to complement the split, to complement what used to be the fork, to complement the 4-seam fastball up and the 4-seam fastball and 2-seam fastball down. He's got another breaking ball that gives him a weapon that on certain days, when he's not landing the split, he can land the slider.
Watch out for Roki Sasaki.
I did his game a couple weeks ago, and if he can land that slider, it's a completely different guy. And he's also figured out he throws 2 different splits now. One's more of a fork and one's more of a true split, and one is really hard and one is not. If he's able to throw that, for strikes at all, man, he's a tough at bat, man. He's not somebody that you go into and say, man, look at this, I'm going to have a great chance today. No, if he's landing those pitches, you really have no chance. This guy's ridiculously good.
Yeah, wait, he's starting to find it. He's got a 2-something ERA in his last 6, 1-something ERA in his last 4, a ton of strikeouts.
It's just a matter of time with him. I mean, truly, his stuff is unbelievable, and it's just a matter of time for him to gain some confidence, find a little bit of a groove in how he wants to be as a pitcher and how he wants to pitch. The slider it's probably going to be career changing for him. So watch out for Sasaki.
Yeah, if you look at his last start, 10 punchies the other day against the Angels, and the first few starts of the season for him, completely different pitcher, different pitch shapes, different pitch usage, different, you name it, right? Everything has changed for him very quickly. They have figured out what his strengths are. He's still a young pup, and he didn't really get a ton of minor league time. All right, let's slap. As always, we're going to stay on for an extra few minutes on YouTube, so make sure you join us there on the FT YouTube channel. We're going to talk about Josh Naylor getting hit by the Tigers. And also, we'll just do quick, I guess we have 30 seconds on this one, the Ernie Clement play when he was hopping around Gunnar Henderson. AJ texted me what?
That was the right call. You can establish your own baseline. You can do it. You can run to right field if you want, and the guy has to chase you and tag you out. I'm sorry. It's one of the quirky rules in baseball, but you can literally, as long as you don't run straight at him and then jump out of the way, that's out of the baseline. But if you watch the play, he actually starts veering away, and Gunnar really kind of didn't really try and tag him because he knew if he tried to tag him, he couldn't get the double play. It was a good play by Ernie Clement, man. I tip my cap to him for knowing the rules and doing it right.
Mm-hmm. Well
Bingo.
Played. Yeah. I mean, people don't know that rule, though, because people online were like, this game was rigged.
It's one of the quirky rules of baseball. Rusty Kuntz used to pound it in our heads in spring training, that exact play. And, yeah, credit to Ernie and the umpire.
Mm-hmm. All right, here we go for a few minutes. Josh Naylor flung his sliding mitt as he was sliding into home, and the Tigers thought that it was intentional, so they decided to hit him with a 96 piece. Naylor was at least took it in stride, smiled at Kiter Montero after he was plunked, and then Naylor post game said Framber Valdez was pointing and laughing at me at the bench, so I knew it was on purpose.
First of all, I don't know, Whit, how you feel about this, but you know how hard it would be and amazing it would be for Josh Naylor to be running down the third baseline. In his head, he goes, you know what I'm going to do to distract him? I'm going to throw my sliding mitt at him. Like, come on. I watched this thing like 20 times. It looked like it just fell off his hand. That would be like one of the craziest things I've ever seen, to say, I'm going to run down to third. I'm running down third. I'm going to throw my sliding mitt at the catcher because that'll get me safe.
100%. I don't believe that was an intentional act. I do think Naylor is crazy enough, though, that he probably played it off like he did it on purpose. And maybe that was why they felt like they needed to hit him, because he said he did it on purpose. But I don't believe that was a purposeful act. No.
What do you think of Framber doing his thing from the dugout?
Yeah, I think both of them are crazy. I don't necessarily think that just because Framber was laughing at and pointing that it means it was on purpose. I think there just could be a history there, and Framber is just laughing because he got hit, and I don't think it means it's on purpose. I just think they're two crazy personalities in this game. I know Naylor himself he's a great dude, but he's got a little crazy in him, and he likes contact. He's not an IL guy. He's a guy that loves pain, and so yeah, I just think it's a whole thing that was made about nothing. I think the glove flying off was an accident. I think him getting hit, I don't think it was on purpose. It might have been, but yeah, it's getting talked about a lot because they're two interesting personalities.
You don't think he was hit on purpose? You don't think that part was on purpose?
Oh, he was. I thought he was. It
I
looked
think
like he was. But also, here's my thing. I had this happen to me before when I was I think I was with the Twins. I used to wear an elbow guard, and I was one of the first guys running to first, and it flew off, and it went by Frank Thomas's feet, and he accused me of throwing it on purpose. I'm like, you think I would really throw my elbow guard at you? First of all, you're Frank Thomas. You're 8'7", 400 pounds. You'll squash me like a bug. Like, I'm not picking you to throw my elbow guard at, first of all. And second of all, like, I'm running to first. I'm pissed off. I'm not going to throw my elbow guard. I'll throw it when I get back in the dugout, but I'm not going to throw it at the first baseman. Like, that's just childish behavior. I did a lot of dumb shit, but I didn't do that dumb shit.
But an honor that the accusation was even there. They thought you were that skilled that you were going to make a move like that. And I guess the same thing with Naylor. They thought that he just is in a big league play, sprinting home and thinking about how he's going to slide the mid off into the catcher. Best athletes in the world. All right. Good show, everyone. We'll see you on Tuesday.